Hello there, FFTCG community. I'm Judge Jared, and welcome to another bonus episode here today. Why are we having a bonus episode? Because we need to talk about lightning. That's why we're having a bonus episode. Last week, there was we had the latest card of the week that came out, and it featured a new lightning because we don't have enough of those already. New card for lightning, and she comes with an effect that we have not seen before in 25 sets of FFTCG. And because of that, there's a whole lot of questions about how she works, what the mechanics are of it, what is the difference between declaring an attack versus actually attacking, and how do those things interact with each other. There's just a whole bunch of different questions about this, and there was enough that popped up and enough things that we had to check in with people asking on Twitter that I went, you know what? This deserves its own episode, its own video, basically, to go over what this effect is and how it works, specifically for lightning, because I don't know if she's going to see play. We'll find out next set if she's going to see play at all, but it's worth exploring just how this works because it is a new design space and it's a new effect that is not just kind of easily plugged into what we're used to doing. So yeah, I thought we would dive into it because it's helpful not just for her card, but if we get any other effects like this on other cards, whether it's in the same set or in future sets, let's just dive into it. Let's get into the various questions that I've seen asked and that I had and various things like that. But we can't do that without looking at the card. So let's talk about lightning. There she is. Let's just go over what her text is, what she does. She's a 3 CP lightning forward. Lightning forward and lightning. 6k, which doesn't really matter for rule stuff, but she's 6k. She's got haste. She has a field ability that says if lightning forming a party deals damage to your opponent, the damage becomes 2 instead. All right? That's pretty straightforward. We'll come back to it, but it's pretty straightforward. The kicker is what comes up next here. She's got an auto ability. It says, when lightning attacks, you may play one category 13 forward of cost 6 or less from your hand onto the field dull, forming a party with lightning and attacking. And then we have a reminder text here that says you can play a forward of any element. The last part of this is all, again, one effect. The last part of this says at the end of the turn, return it to its owner's hand. Okay. It doesn't read too crazy, right? This is all more or less stuff that we've seen before, but there is some very new things in here. We have an effect that is making a forward form a party, which is not something that we've seen before. And this effect also makes a forward come into play already attacking, something we have not seen before. So both those things kind of open up a can of worms of questions about how this works and what that means for cards that already exist and the way that we understand how attacking works and forming a party and all that stuff. So let's go over some questions here, and I'm hoping that by the end of this video, every question that you might have had about how lightning works and how all of this goes will have been answered. But if not, you can always, make a comment, ask me. I'll try to follow up on it if it's not something that we covered. So first question you might have here is, does the forward need to have haste? So her effect, right, she's attacking, and then the auto ability goes on the stack, and then it resolves. You're playing a category 13 forward of cost 6 or less from your hand onto the field dull. It's forming a party, and it's attacking with her. Does this forward need to have haste? That's a fair question, because our understanding so far in this game, after 25 sets, has always been a forward needs to either have been continuously controlled since the beginning of your turn, or it needs to have haste in order to attack. The answer to this question is it does not need to have haste. Now, how do we know it doesn't need to have haste? One of the ways you can tell is that if you read the article, the card of the week article that this card came from, I'm pointing in the right direction, then you'll know that they give examples of some of the cards that you can play off of lightning, and all the examples they give are forwards that do not have haste, right? There's a snow that doesn't have haste. They mentioned a Vanille that doesn't have haste, and a Knoll that... No, sorry, not Knoll. Hope. I just combined Knoll and Hope into Hope. Anyway, and a Hope. All three of those don't have haste, and they put them in the article. So I don't think the article's lying to us about what we're allowed to play here. And you're going to see a common theme with this, by the way, with these questions, which is that we are now having or wanting to separate out the difference between declaring an attack and attacking. And up until this point, those things have been basically synonymous. Whatever the restrictions were around attacking, it was because of your restrictions, because the only way that you could have a forward attack is through declaring an attack, right? So these things were linked up. But that's not the case anymore, because now we have a new way of having there be an attack, right? This effect here is the first time we have a way to have a forward attacking that is something other than declaring an attack. And so we're going to see that a lot of these things, these questions that pop up, are related to there being restrictions on declaring an attack, but not restrictions on being able to attack. And that's might be a little hard distinction to get at first, but we'll just kind of keep reiterating as we go through these questions. So does the forward need to have haste? No, because that requirement to have haste or to be continuously controlled since the beginning of your turn, that's the requirements for declaring an attack. This effect here is telling you to play this forward onto the field, and it is now attacking. So yeah, we don't need to have haste. All right, next question on the list here is, will auto abilities that trigger from attacking trigger when played via lightning's effect? Let me give you an example of this. We're going to look at a 13 forward with one of those, which is Knoll here. That's why I had Knoll on the brain earlier. So Knoll, of course, has this his own auto ability. It says when Knoll attacks until the end of the turn, Knoll gains plus 1,000 power for each 13 character that you control. Okay, so the question is, when Knoll comes in off of lightning's effect, is that going to trigger? And the answer here is no, it's not going to trigger. And you might be thinking, why? Why is it not triggering? He's coming in, he's attacking. Why is this not triggering? And it's because the trigger event for his ability, when Knoll attacks, that trigger event, even though it doesn't say it this way, what we're learning from all these questions that have come up and all the answers that Hobby Japan has given us is that that triggers when Knoll declares an attack. Not when he's attacking in general, but when he declares an attack, that's when it triggers. So Knoll being played off of this effect is entering the field after the attack has been declared, because the attack was declared by lightning, right? So that's when the attack was declared, and then now Knoll is just popping in the middle of this, but he wasn't there for the attack declaration, which means that he wasn't on the field for when the trigger event happened, which is declaring an attack, specifically with him in this case. But yeah, so he is not declaring an attack when he enters, and the attack that was declared before he got there, and so he wasn't part of that. So for multiple reasons there, it's not triggering. So if you're excited for this card because you're like, I'm going to get so many attack triggers, right? I'm going to play Caius in on this, I'm going to play Knoll in on this, and any sort of other ones you can think of that have, when this thing attacks, get an effect, does not work. Because, again, he's entering attacking, but he's not declaring an attack, and so we are past the point at which his auto ability would have triggered. So, I know it's kind of a bummer. It's going to be kind of a theme with these questions. There's going to be a lot of me going, it doesn't work the way that you think, and this card maybe is not as good as you think it is. But that's why we got to go over it. Okay? All right, next question here is, can the forward attack again if it is activated? And this is an interesting question, because we know that forwards inherently can only attack once per turn. Okay? They can only attack once per turn, and so in this case, they're coming in, they're attacking, and if we separate out the idea of a forward attacking and a forward declaring an attack, it's logical to think, well, wait a second, I didn't declare an attack, right? We've got that. So if I didn't declare an attack, does that mean that that forward is still eligible to declare an attack because it hasn't declared an attack already this turn? So, fair thing to kind of explore here is, it comes in attacking, but if I had a way to activate it, now because it wasn't there to declare, has it used up its declaration and so forth? And this was asked on Twitter. I do want to point out, because you might have the questions of like, how do we know this stuff? Where are we getting the answers for all this? And if you want to look at the sources, you can check the FFTCG_SQEX Twitter account. You can check their replies on things, or if you go to my Twitter, which is at Judge Jared FFTCG, You can see the things that I tweeted at them to get answers to a lot of these questions. So a lot of these answers I got by asking them directly, but also I looked at what other people were asking in the last few days and getting those answers and kind of get everything together. So I'm not going to like pop up the tweets on the screen or anything right now. But if you're wondering how I know this, or you think I'm just making things up or whatever, I promise you, there's sources. You can go look at them if you don't believe me. But I'm going to tell you what I've discovered in the last few days. So yeah, what they've said is that, or actually in this case, it's not even so much Twitter. If you look at the comprehensive rules and what their restrictions say about declaring an attack, it mentions when a forward is eligible to attack. And one of the things that it mentions as an example of that would make it something that it's not eligible to attack is if it's already attacked this turn. Important wording here. If it's already attacked once this turn. Not if it's declared an attack this turn, but if it has attacked this turn. So that means that they've already covered within the comprehensive rules that separation between declaring an attack and actually doing an attack. So that means that we're going to not have to worry about that separation here. It's the restriction on attacking is not based off of declarations. It's based off of the being in the state of attacking, I guess, if you want to think of it like that. So since the forward enters, and it enters and now it is attacking, that means it's used up the attack for the turn. All right, next thing we might be thinking about is, can I play a forward that can't attack? This is a fun one. I love this idea because it really gets into the separation between declaring an attack and attacking. And so the example here, in case you're not clear on like what I'm asking or what this is about, is let's take a good look at Vanille. Vanille here. Look at her first ability, first field ability. Vanille cannot attack or block. Up until now, that field ability has been super straightforward. Cannot attack or block. Okay. It's not going to happen. Unless you remove her abilities, she's not going to be involved at all in attacking or blocking. Now the question is, if I play Vanille off of Lightning's effect, then is she attacking? Is she not eligible to be played off of this effect? Is she going to get dropped from the party? What's going to happen here? You know, with trying to play her because it says you can't attack or block. And Hobby Japan has explicitly said you can play Vanille, and she will enter the field, and she will be attacking. She will be attacking. So this is another example of where her field ability, which up until now it didn't matter what the distinction was between declaring an attack and being in the state of attacking. Her field ability is specifically about declaring an attack or declaring a block with her. Right? It doesn't mean that she's not capable of attacking or blocking, but you can't do it in what up until now was the only ways that you could do it. And with blocking right now, we actually don't have another way yet of making something block. But if you have another way of getting her into attacking without declaring an attack, she can straight up do it. So she gets around her pacifism there. So yeah, I just love it because it's fun. Like it's just one of these interesting niche rules things just to kind of like weave through, is that you can get around her ability here by playing her off of Lightning. They've explicitly said, yeah, she'll come in and she will be attacking with Lightning. Yeah, so that's just really cool. All right, Vanille. Back to Lightning here. All right, so that covers that. Yeah, if it's a forward that can't attack, well, it can now. All right, then we have what happens if Lightning breaks before her auto ability resolves. So a lot of times when we're talking about whether or not ability resolves or any effect on the stack, what causes it to resolve normally versus not, a lot of it gets into things getting self-canceled by it choosing forwards and then those forwards not being eligible and stuff like that. But here we have an interesting situation. I'm going to read her text again on this, which is that it says, you play the forward onto the field dull, forming a party with Lightning and attacking. Right? So it's kind of all lumped together here. You play it on the field dull, it's forming a party with Lightning, and it's attacking. So reasonable question becomes, this thing triggers, it goes on the stack, and then let's say something happens, and then poof, lightning's gone. Could be something your opponent did. Maybe it's something you did. Maybe you cast Famfrit before she resolved. I don't know. She's no longer on the field when this auto ability resolves. What happens? Right? And the two kind of things people would jump to is like, oh, maybe it doesn't play the forward because she's not there anymore. But then you might also be thinking, well, hold on, this effect doesn't choose anything. It's not saying that it chooses anything. So because of that, right, we resolve it as much as possible, right? So we still play it to the field and we still play it attacking, and it's just not forming a part of lightning, right? That's a reasonable way to think that this would resolve. Now they've answered this explicitly as well, and they've said no, basically no to that reasoning I just gave. So if she's no longer on the field when her auto ability resolves, you do not play the forward to the field. You do not play the forward to the field. It stays in your hand. The reason they've given is because with lightning no longer on the field, it's not possible to form a party with her, right? The effect is trying to form a party with her. It's trying to join this attack in like this already in progress by forming a party with lightning, and she is no longer there. So yeah, they've said that if she gets removed before the auto ability resolves, the forward just doesn't even pop out at all. It's not like it pops out and it's not attacking. It's not like it pops out and it's not forming a party. It just stays in your hand. It just doesn't go anywhere. So that's not something that's, I think, obvious to everybody, how that would resolve. So I just want to make sure to cover that here. And this is a fun one too. What if the forward that we played leaves the field before the end of the turn? The reason I mention this is because we've been focusing on the whole attacking and partying thing, but if we go back to the end of her auto ability here, it does have it create a delayed auto, right? It says at the end of the turn, return it to its owner's hand. So it's a delayed auto ability that's generated when her auto ability resolves. And this is one that luckily it actually doesn't have anything to do with this being a new type of effect. We have a reference for this. We've had other effects like this before. But you might be thinking like, okay, I played, say, that Vanille onto the field, and then I did something, I removed it from the game using, I don't know, Lady Lilith's effect, or something else happened to it. It got refied and it went to the bottom of my deck. Something happened. It's no longer on the field. So at the end of the turn, it says return it to its owner's hand. What's going to happen? Is it going to snag it from my deck? Is it going to snag it from the remove from play zone and then return it to my hand? What's going to happen here? And like I said, this is something that we've had before. We've had it with like the Dark Xenos and other effects like that that will return something somewhere. And what happens is that if that forward is no longer on the field when the auto ability resolves, just nothing happens. The forward stays in whatever zone it is now, because this auto ability is not going to go hunting every single zone to go find that card and bring it back. It's looking specifically for this iteration of this card on the field. And if it's not there, then it does the shrug emoji and it moves along with its day. This includes, for example, if we played, say, that Knoll or something onto the field, and then in second main phase, we play a Renoa, right? So we play a Renoa, we choose the Knoll gets removed from the game, the Knoll comes back into the game, it's on the field. At the end of the turn, is that going to get returned to your hand? Nope, because it's considered to be a new iteration of Knoll because it left the field and came back, right? It was... It was the Knoll that we had, and it is no longer that, right? So we had Knoll number 675 before it left, and then he left, he came back, and he's Knoll 939 now. So the ability comes in, and it's like, are you Knoll 675? He's like, no, I'm Knoll 935. I'm like, oh, okay. Have you seen Knoll 675? He's like, I haven't seen him. I have no idea. And then shrug emoji, and it goes away. So, yeah, if the forward leaves the field, the auto ability just fails to return it to your hand. And again, that's something we've already had before, but it's just worth reiterating because of how confusing this card can be in general. Now, does the forward that got played count as one that was attacking or attacked? And the reason for this question is because we're looking at there's other effects that care about how many forwards attacked that turn. Sometimes specific types of forwards, or just in general. And I'm going to give you an example here, which is Jekt. So Jekt, he has this auto ability. It says when he enters the field, choose a forward, and then if one or more forwards were attacking this turn, then you do that. If three or more forwards were attacking this turn, break the forward and draw a card instead. So we're looking at this forward that gets played in via lightning. Does it count as a forward that attacked, right? Going back to the idea of separating out declaring an attack versus being in the state of attacking. Like, what happens here? Does it count as lightning was one forward that attacked, and then Noel or Vanille or whoever was the second one? And again, they've answered this question on Twitter, so we have a definitive answer there. And they say yes, it counts as a forward that was attacking or attacked, either of those phrases there. So it's important for Jekt, right? If you had another forward that attacked other than, let's say we had Titus attack, and then we attack with lightning, and then lightning plays in the Vanille, and the Vanille comes in attacking. All right, now we've had three forwards attacking. And when we play Jekt in the second main phase, he will recognize, or the game will recognize, that there were three forwards that attacked this turn. Okay? So, yeah, it counts for the sake of that. And then you could also have a weird situation where, like, you attacked with that lightning, you played the Vanille, after that resolved, then something happens to lightning, and then you like play Phoenix to play in the light lightning, for example, and then you attack with that lightning, and that lightning is her auto ability is based off of how many 13 characters attacked that turn. And so in that case, it's counting them both, right? It would be counting the first lightning, and it would be counting the Vanille, and then if this lightning's attacking, so it'd be the third one, right? So for things like that, it counts. And then I will bring up an interesting thing that popped up. It was a Japanese player that asked this on Twitter, and so I just want to mention it because it's amusing. It's not relevant yet, but it could be for future effects, which was they asked the question of, let's say that we had a 13 character that was job Knight, right? And we do, by the way, we actually have the promo lightning from way back in the day. Promo lightning, her job is Knight, actually, which is really neat. Back in the day, it was one of the few ways you could like have additional knights than what we had, is if you wanted to pay 5 for her. But she's not a knight of Etro, she's just a straight up knight. So they said if you had an effect like this and you played in something that was job Knight, would that count for like Lastwell? Would it count as a knight having attacked to trigger Lastwell's end of turn ability that makes your opponent discard a card? The reason I say this isn't important yet is because you have to come up with a really convoluted way for this to like matter with the current pool of cards. Like you have to be playing like Title, and then somehow have some effect that you took control of Lastwell. I'm not even sure if it's possible in Title, but let's say we're in Title, you somehow have Lastwell that you took from your FFBE opponent. You playing with this 3 CP lightning, she attacks, you play the promo lightning onto the field, and it's a knight. And so now we're like, hey, did a knight attack this turn? And when they asked this to Hobby Japan said, yeah, it counts. They said up until this point, Lastwell's effect and things that trigger like that, they only triggered off of declaring an attack with a knight. But that now, as of this effect, there is now a new way to trigger that effect, which is if a forward enters the field attacking. That will also trigger, or it will also, not so much trigger, because that's not when his ability triggers, actually, but it will count for when it checks later, when Lastwell's ability checks later. That's the way I should phrase that. It will count that there was a knight that entered the field attacking. So even though they didn't declare an attack, still counts. And that's interesting, not the least of which because there's been a previous ruling where it was asked, like, what if we attacked with a forward with Lastwell on the field, and then after the attack was declared, then we used, like, Hashmal to give it Knight. Would that count for Lastwell? And they said no at the time. that making it a knight while it's still attacking, but after it declared the attack would not count as a knight attacking. So it being in the state of attacking as a knight, not good enough for last well. But if you entered the field as a knight attacking, apparently that works. So that's a new thing that we have. Like I said, it's not relevant yet because it's like only this really niche, possibly not even possible situation in title. But if we have other effects like that, then that's relevant. All right, I have one last question here to dive into. It has nothing to do with the playing the theme of the field. So, does the party deal 2 damage if lightning leaves the field? Okay, out of here, Ject. We're done talking about you. Bye-bye. All right, so going back to her field ability, right? We spent all this time talking about the auto ability because that's where the juicy bits are here. But the field ability, if lightning forming a party deals damage to your opponent, the damage becomes 2 instead. The question here, does the party deal 2 damage if lightning leaves the field? So if we play lightning, and then Vanille comes in, whoop, they're not party attacking, and something happens to lightning. She suddenly gets removed, and then she's out. Vanille's still attacking. If Vanille deals damage, is she going to deal 2 damage? And the answer here is no. Might be an obvious one, but I want to make sure to cover it. Because lightning's not on the field. It's a field ability, for one, right? So it's something that the field ability stops being applied if it's no longer on the field. So that's pretty straightforward. But also, if we get really into like other specifics, it says if lightning forming a party deals damage, but lightning's not actually forming a party anymore or on the field. So yeah, that's not attached to the auto ability, right? It's not something that's still going to be in effect, even if we didn't have the other bits of it saying that lightning needs to be forming a party for it. So yeah, like I said, it might be straightforward, but I wanted to cover it. Something else actually that I realized I wanted to cover and I forgot to when we talked about it earlier was when it comes to the forward entering the field. So if lightning gets removed, and then I said if she gets removed, then it doesn't play the new forward, right? And you might be thinking, okay, well, it's not being played because of the reason that there's no party anymore. You can't form a party anymore with the new forward for it to join in on the attack. And you might have thought at the time, well, what if she was party attacking already, right? What if she was in a party and party attacked, and then her auto ability goes on the stack, and then she gets removed, but there's still an attack happening, right? So if it resolves, will the forward enter and then just form a party with the forward or forwards that she was party attacking with before, right? Because there's still a party attack happening, or some attack happening. Will the forward join in that case? And the answer there is also no. Something else that was explicitly asked and explicitly answered. Her effect is looking at specifically making the card form a party with lightning, which in effect will make it form a party with whatever other forwards she might be partied with. But lightning is the crux here. If she's not there, it's trying to make the forward party with her specifically, and then everything else just kind of like lines up there. But yeah, so just to make sure that that's clear as well. Doesn't matter whether or not there's any forward still attacking. If she is removed from the field before the auto resolves, still not going to play it. All right, that's all the questions. Let me just do a quick rundown one more time of them. So for her ability, does the forward need to have haste? It does not. Will auto abilities that trigger from attacking trigger when they get played here? They will not. Can the forward attack again if it's activated after the attack finishes? And the answer is no, cannot attack again. Can I play a forward that can attack? You sure can. What happens if lightning breaks before her auto ability resolves? Well, then the auto ability fails to play the forward, fails to resolve basically. Just the forward, any forward you potentially had stays in your hand. What if the forward leaves the field before the end of the turn? If it leaves the field, it's going to stay wherever it went because it's now a new iteration of that card, new instance of that card. Does the played forward count as one that was attacking or attacked? It does. It does count as one that was attacking. And then does the party deal 2 damage if lightning leaves the field? They do not deal 2 damage, even if they're still a party after she's already left. They're just partying without her, and because they're without her, they don't get the 2. She takes her 2 damage with her. Got to keep her in the party for that. All right. Hopefully, after all that, you have everything answered. I hope that I covered everything possible that you could think of that you're like, how does this card work? But like I said, it's a new type of effect. Like, we haven't ever had an effect that made a forward enter the field attacking, or that made a forward enter the field and form a party. It's the first time we've been able to form a party in a way that isn't just at attack declaration. It's the first time we've been able to have a forward be attacking without having declared an attack. All that stuff. So it's an interesting design space. And like I said, even if this card doesn't end up seeing play, and we'll find out one way or the other, but even if it doesn't see a lot of play, the fact that this is an effect we can possibly get now and possibly see on other cards is interesting. I think this type of effect, personally, I would have liked to have seen it on a Final Fantasy X character for flavor reasons. First, because it reminds me of just Final Fantasy X with the idea of characters swapping in and out during battle, right? Jumping in, doing their stuff, and then jumping out. So I think that idea of having one get played to the field, and at the end of the turn it returns back to your hand, seems like it would fit that to me more than 13. But I don't know. Do you think we're going to see it in any other cards this set? It is kind of a unique effect, and it's also on a legend here, so it's probably something we're not going to be seeing it like thrown into a common or whatever. But I don't know. Could happen. Maybe we'll see another one of these in a set or two. But yeah, that should just about cover it. So, like I said, if you have any other questions after all this, then go ahead and ask me. And if I know it, I'll answer it. If I don't, I will bug them until they answer it and then get back to you. But yeah, that should do it for today. As always, you can keep up with my videos here on YouTube, where we're at youtube.com/@JudgeJared. You can reach out to me on Discord. My username is Judge Jared if you have any questions or comments or whatever you want to share. If you're looking for me on Facebook, it's facebook.com/JudgeJared. You can like me over there and see all the different things I have, the spoiler spreadsheet, and links to all of the videos and the article that I have, and all of the pictures of all the questions that I cover in Rules Roundup. So you can see all of those to kind of quiz yourself. And then on Twitter, I am at Judge Jared FFTCG. So you can also follow me over there. And then, of course, back here on YouTube, you can like and subscribe. So you can like this video. You can subscribe if you haven't. You can go watch other videos, and you can like those ones too. And in addition to liking them, you actually hit the like button. So there's a difference between liking the video and then hitting the like button. So I should be specific there. You can hit the like button on this video and other videos. You can also independently like them, and I hope that you do. Whether or not you hit the button, I hope that you like them. I should stop rambling. But we talked about lightning. We need to talk about lightning. We did talk about lightning. Thanks for being here with me to talk about lightning. That should do it for today. So, as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, court is adjourned.